Diving into the history of Return of the Living Dead has been really fun, and it's also shown me that not everything is as it appears. Things that you think might have happened with these movies may not always be the case. And dismissing a movie because it's bad, sometimes the blame can get treaded onto the wrong people. Never has that been more true with the Return of the Living Dead films that we would get in the early 2000s. And today we learn about the very last Return of the Living Dead film ever made. Return of the Living Dead, Rave to the Grave. So here we are now, guys, with Return of the Living Dead, Rave to the Grave, which would premiere immediately after Necropolis in October of 2005. Now, going into this film, I gotta say, I hadn't seen it since 2006, basically when this DVD came out, and my memories were fuzzy at best. My memories on Necropolis were a little bit more constructed and clear to my mind, but Rave to the Grave was much more of a blur, and I couldn't remember much of anything, just the final sequence, which is a rave in a grave. So if you watched the last episode, which was us going over Return of the Living Dead Necropolis, I got into William Butler, the writer, and all the craziness that would ensue with his screenplay and things to come. Aurora Entertainment would basically take no money, throw it at a group of people and say, make a movie. Oh, no, wait, make 2 movies back to back and just get them done. We're not going to give you enough money for 1 good movie, we're going to give you no money for 2 movies. So that's something I wanted to add, that when I was reading more of Return of the Living Dead, the complete history book, is that Aurora tied everyone's hand behind their back with the making ofs. It really was a tragedy. Looking at this now, it's hard to just want to hate these movies, or not even hate, but it's like hard to want to even dislike them because they were given nothing. The director was told to make 2 movies back to back with no money. The settings were weird and in Romania, and people were uncomfortable. They weren't used to filming over there. Time was of the essence, so to speak, and things were just gobbled. They were messing with the script left and right. Things weren't making sense. You know, my opinion of these films are just so different now that I've done some research into what happened. It really was bizarre and just crazy what Aurora did. One thing I wanted to mention this time is the director, Ellery Elkayam. He's a talented guy and did the best he could. I will say that. One thing that I read that hampered the production of Necropolis was the original director of photography on the movie. He was a brute guy who was very harsh and didn't get along with much people, making the set pretty hostile. But one thing that would happen at the end of the production of Necropolis and then take over Rave to the Grave was a new director of photography who would come in. This was a man named Thomas Calloway, who instantly gave the set a new pep and made everybody feel more at home and comfortable. The director and some of the actors had a lot of good things to say about it, and this would carry over in the tone of what Rave to the Grave would be. But here's some people talking about the director of photography who would replace the previous one. From my point of view, it was far easier to communicate with his replacement, Thomas Calloway, who had worked in Romania before and understood how things work over there. It is very, very different from shooting in the US. Tom is also very experienced, especially in this genre, and has made over 70 movies. I really enjoyed working with him. We have worked together since, and I hope to work with him again soon. You can certainly see a difference between the looks of the 2 films. Some of Part 4 and all of Part 5 was Tom. We came to set and Tom Calloway was there to greet us. He brought such a refreshing vibe to the set. I love that he took over. He has an amazing eye for knowing what he wants and getting it, and jumping on board so late in the game, he really did a great job. I love Tom. He came in and got right to work. The whole production, I felt, started to pep up once Tom was aboard. He helped us actors a lot too, which you don't always get from a DP. He was awesome to work with. So when reading about Return of the Living Dead, Rave to the Grave in the complete history book, it made it seem like this set was a lot more fun. There was no bad apples in the bunch, despite the fact that there was no time or money. Everybody was just like, you know what, let's just give this hell and have fun and have a good time. And I will say this, getting into the review right now, Rave to the Grave was certainly a more fun experience for the viewer, in my opinion, than was Necropolis. Necropolis had a lot of cool ideas, but the film felt very stiff, and there wasn't enough money to basically do anything in that movie that really should have gotten done. Rave to the Grave is going to take the essence of fun, and let's not take this seriously one bit and just make the best of it. Rave to the Grave is a far cry from the tone of Necropolis in almost every conceivable way. Rave to the Grave has characters that are very tongue-in-cheek, funny dialogue, a lot of nudity, quirky characters, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but kind of fun. Let's get into the story of Rave to the Grave a little bit. So the caretaker Charles Garrison, who ran Hybrid Tech in the first movie, is going to meet with some Interpol agents to get rid of this last trioxin barrel that exists. What was supposed to be the discarding of one of these last barrels goes awry, and some gas leaks out yet again. This is going to get some of the government officials sprayed with trioxin, they're going to turn into zombies, and all hell's going to break loose yet again, but in a much more fun tone. So the guy who runs Hybrid Tech, Charles, is going to pass away in the opening of this movie, and now Julian, the main character, the older brother, is left to figure out what the hell is going on. So in the aftermath of this havoc, Julian and his girlfriend are going to go to Charles' house to just kind of look around. Well, they're going to find a hidden barrel of trioxin. Julian and his friends are going to start using small doses of trioxin to give them this zombie-like effect that gives them some sort of high that they like. So what do? They start taking tiny doses of it and putting it in capsules and selling it like drugs, and they call it Drug Z. Everybody's going to start buying this drug and taking it and getting these small moments of these zombie-like highs that make them feel great, and, you know, this is going to culminate at the end of the movie in this big party that they're having, this rave at a grave, and it's really at a grave. The setting was very modest, but they got a cool vibe going on here with the cemetery plots and this almost outdoor Colosseum-looking cathedral that they used. Again, it was Romania, but it was pretty cool. I kind of liked it, to be honest with you. Those two Interpol agents that I told you about in the beginning, well, they're going to be trying to track down Julian because they know that there's more trioxin out there, and they are bumbling and kind of silly. They kind of remind me of the cops from Halloween 5. They stop what they're doing at one point because one of them wants to get Krispy Kreme, and they actually reference Krispy Kreme donuts in the movie, and they literally stop what they're doing and go get Krispy Kreme donuts. One of the cool things about this movie, I've got to say, and it's modest, and it's certainly not the best look, there is a tar man in this movie, and he's a mucky, nasty character. I don't know, I kind of liked it, to be honest with you. This one was just a lot more fun than Necropolis, which I didn't expect, to be honest with you. I really thought Necropolis was going to be the better of the two, but I'm coming out of this thinking Rave to the Grave kind of wins for just a little bit more self-awareness and just being a lot more fun for the viewer, quite frankly. Now, all the havoc is going to truly ensue at the end of this movie when everybody's at this rave and everybody's turning into zombies and the government gets called in and they start bombing this place because, you know, that's what you're supposed to do when a zombie outbreak happens. We saw that in the first Return of the Living Dead. They blew up half of Kentucky. Well, here they are blowing up this rave where everybody's turning into zombies, where Julian and his girlfriend are the last survivors, along with these two Interpol agents that are dressed as, like, women Viking warriors because it was a Halloween party. So to kind of wrap this up, I will say this about Rave to the Grave. It is still a sci-fi low-budget movie. I am no way going to tell you that this movie is a great Return of the Living Dead entry or a great horror film in any sense, quite frankly, but it is very self-aware and much more fun and lighter in tone. It moves at a pretty fast pace. The characters are silly, and the acting is more suitable for a movie like this. What I mean by that is the not-so-great acting fits better in a movie where everybody is kind of hokier and sillier, and they rely on a lot of gore and nudity and just funny lines. So I can't say that I think Rave to the Grave is going to get like a thumbs up from me, so to speak, but I'm not going to give it a thumbs down. I'm going to go about thumbs in the middle, maybe a couple notches towards thumbs up. I gotta say, it was kind of fun watching it. It's nowhere near the level of the first three, in my opinion, but I would put it over Necropolis. I'm kind of surprised. I really didn't think that was going to happen, but I'm going to have to give it to it. Just check it out if you haven't seen it. I know that Necropolis is free on YouTube right now. I don't know about Rave to the Grave. And these movies only got American DVD releases. So if you're overseas, there were never physical releases overseas for these movies. So you got to import it. So to wrap up the Return of the Living Dead retrospectives that I've done, because I'll make a playlist of all this. I did a retrospective of part 1, 2, and 3. And now we finally wrapped it up with Necropolis and Rave to the Grave. I got to say that what really was the coolest thing about doing this was learning the truth about what happened with the making of these films. So often we just judge a film based on what we see, not knowing that the Hollywood system is bizarre, unfair, and makes the people that make the film look incompetent and bad, when in fact, a lot of times they're just doing the best they can under disgusting circumstances. Quite frankly, Aurora Entertainment should be ashamed of themselves for what they did to the team making these films, and William Butler, who worked so hard making great scripts and doing everything he can to satisfy the fans, while he was the one that got got raked over the coals online instead of Aurora Entertainment, which is where the blame should go. I think it's really important to note that because it's not fair to him. You know, a lot of directors, they work their butts off to become directors and work hard to get into the system, and nobody wants to make a bad film. But sometimes these companies just handicap you so hard, it's just crazy. The Hollywood system could be deadly, and I learned that more so on these two Return of the Living Dead films than anything before. Yeah, pretty cool stuff to learn. Anyways, guys, I will say this. If you're gonna watch one of these two, I'm gonna give it to Rave to the Grave. It's gonna be more tongue-in-cheek, fun, fast-paced, and not take itself so seriously, and it works in its favor, quite frankly. These films were panned so bad upon release, and it's hard to argue it, but learning what we know now, I think we could look at these films with a slightly different perspective. So what do you guys think about these two films now that we've done a little bit of digging into what happened? Thanks for watching, guys. Thank you to all my supporters on Patreon. To get behind-the-scenes photos, videos, and music, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month.